So how did Project Spaces come about? It's a bit of a long story, but the maybe slightly abridged version is that my co-founder and I met at Queen's University. We were managing a student service there for the AMS, which is the student government at Queen's. Found we had a good working relationship, and when our contracts were over, we decided to start a business together. The first business was a print magazine called Connect Student Magazine, and we grew that to become the largest student publication in Canada. That's actually what brought us to Toronto in 2011. I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit here. We were kind of working out of our living room, which was actually across the street on Bathurst, and we were tired of that, and we wanted to be around other entrepreneurs, and so we rented a little space at the corner of King and Bathurst, had our friends come in and kind of share it with us. We had friends that were doing tech startups, some media production friends from school, and that's kind of what kicked it off very, very, I'll say humbly and organically in 2011. Sure, so I mean, it's 2019, right? I mean, technology has enabled us to work from anywhere. Hashtag work from anywhere. That's like everybody loves to be, a digital nomad and just do what they have to do from wherever they want to be, and that's a beautiful thing. But what technology can't solve is the problem of isolation. And if you're working at home by yourself, it's boring, it's lonely. We know now that coworking increases levels of happiness, productivity, collaboration. And I think as time goes on, people are just realizing that, companies are realizing that. And so say if you're maybe a remote employee for a company based, say in the US, they know that if they tell you to go get out of your house and join a co-working space, you're going to be more productive, you're going to be a happier employee. So it started off very much as just sort of more grassroots, so tech startups, artists, people that just couldn't afford a lease but like wanted to have a place to work. But now it's really anyone who is working remotely or working on their own. It's much more fun to come into a place like this every day. So our King West location, where we are right now, was our first. We opened in August 2011. We had about 1,000 square feet then. We've expanded a few times since then. Now we have 10,000 square feet. We're the whole top floor here. In 2014, we opened a second location over on Camden Street. Different vibe, but another really cool building. And yeah, just growing a really cool community of people doing cool stuff. So I grew up in our nation's capital in Ottawa, Ontario, west side, a little area called Canada. Very, very cold, lots of snow. But no, I loved growing up in Ottawa. It's a beautiful place. I was involved in a lot of things from, competitive hockey for many, many years, played on volleyball teams, soccer teams, track teams, did music lessons, art lessons, a little bit of everything. When I think about who I look up to, I think about my dad. Probably one of my main guiding philosophies is that anything worth doing is worth doing well. And that's definitely something that he kind of hammered into me from a young age, that if you're going to be a part of something, if you're going to put your name on anything, that it better be your best work, or don't bother. And I feel like I've taken that philosophy into my business today. Right now we're just very focused on community building. We have about 20,000 square feet between our two locations. It's a lot of space. We have lots of room to host awesome events, bring in lots of different companies of kind of all shapes and size, and so that's sort of what we're focused on right now. On a longer term, I'd love to see us open locations across Toronto, across Canada. It requires a lot of capital. Real estate's very expensive, so we'll lean into that as we're able to, but for now we're just kind of focused on growing the community. So Jeff and I have been working together actually over 10 years now. Project Spaces for about 8. Yeah. We were lucky that it happened somewhat naturally. Again, we were working for the student government at our university, and we kind of ended up meeting that way. I think probably what made it work, and maybe this is what you ought to look for, is a very similar temperament, because you want to kind of get each other, but complementary skill sets. So the things that Jeff is good at, I suck at, and vice versa, and that kind of makes it work. So as I mentioned, my partner and I our skill sets are very complementary. So I'd say what I sort of focus more on is I'll say what falls under maybe the creative side. So that has to do with our community building, our event planning, also our marketing, our digital marketing, design, that kind of stuff. we both do a little bit of everything, but if I had to say what I focus more on, it's that stuff. Maybe not as much as I should. For me, I feel like fitness is important. Whatever that means for you, whether it's going to the gym, yoga, whatever. I think it's important to kind of have something to keep yourself in shape, keep your mind sharp. It's very easy when you're going through the entrepreneurial journey to get, stressed out. When you're stressed out, you don't eat well, you don't sleep well, and all that. So one of the first things I definitely tell new entrepreneurs is like, get a gym membership, and we can actually get you discounts. So. I mean, there's probably like two answers to that. Like the real answer is that I love what I'm doing, so it's not that hard to be excited about it. At the same time, everyone has bad days. And I actually kind of got this philosophy from my partner Jeff. So he was a server, well, so was I for a while, but he worked at a restaurant where people had call names, meaning you were called something else when you were on duty. And so the whole thing was his name was Rango at this restaurant that he worked at. And so he used to tell me, I can have an off day, but Rango can never have an off day. And that kind of philosophy like helps. You come into work and you're like, I'm feeling crappy for whatever reason. You got to remember there's people coming in here every day, and they pay you to be here, and it's on you to create a positive vibe, even if you're maybe not feeling that great that day. So, but again, I don't find it all that difficult because I do love coming here. I think work-life balance is important. At the same time, if you're a hands-on business owner, it's tricky, especially if you're doing something that you love, because then you don't really see that stark difference between your personal life and your work life. So it can be tricky. I think one important thing I could say is to be able to recognize when you're burnt out or stressed, which may end up being a lot of the time depending on what you're doing, but recognize when maybe you need a day off, or you need to take this weekend and unplug your phone or whatever it is. I find for me it's not that often, but let's say every few months I'll just kind of feel like a bit run down. I need to take a weekend, go home, hang out with my parents, or just go see a movie with a friend or whatever, and I think that's the most important thing, because you can't always separate your personal life and your work life. But if you can recognize those times when you really need to, you'll probably be okay. It sucks to say, but having done it and failed is a pretty common trait in successful entrepreneurs. You've gone through it and you've learned some hard lessons. But I suppose by that same token, resilience, because you failed and you're still here. We've been doing this for almost 8 years. We have some members that I've known since 2012, 2013. We've seen them go through ups and downs, and the ones that are successful today are the ones that just didn't stop. Which means you need to have a little bit of crazy in you, because as they say, there will probably come a time where it makes more sense to stop. And so you have to have that little bit of your vision outweighs the logic of the moment, and you kind of just keep going. So don't stop, but also know when it's not working, know when something's failing, but don't let it get you down. Well, music. So in terms of getting through hard times, I'm a musician. I've been playing guitar since I was about 12, and so that's something. If I don't know if it's too much on my mind or whatever, I sit down with the guitar. It helps. I sort of go through waves. Like right now, I am actually playing quite a bit, trying to do some songwriting and stuff. Sometimes there'll be a few months go by where I don't play, but again, that will lead to me being like, oh my God, I need to take a break and go hang out at the cottage for a weekend or something.
All right. Thank you so much, Neil.
My pleasure.